Cheers, everyone out there in internet land. You know, when you become a Christian, one of the first things to go is the sense of humor. Last time I checked, joy is a fruit of the Spirit, depression is not. But in order to balance everyone out, you got these dry teachers, dry as a ship's biscuit, who have invented an unhappy version of joy. You ever heard of that? I have joy, brother. It's not the same as happiness. Oh, you've got the melancholy version of joy. Along these lines, it's no wonder the religious order hates humor, because the nature of humor is intrinsically kryptonite to man's own self-importance and pride, the very things religion is built on. You see, the flavor of humility that's always pumped out in the church, it's like, oh, I'll be your groveling little dog, Jesus. You can kick me around, humble little servant. No, the flavor of humility is joy unspeakable because you don't take yourself so seriously. You don't take your ministry or your calling so seriously. You can laugh at yourself. You're, after all, expendable. So many ministers just need to flip and relax. They need a Holy Ghost enema to flush out the blockage. Look, if you're in ministry and you're not having any fun, why don't you do everybody else a favor and quit while you're ahead? You've got these intergalactic apostles out there who take themselves and their ministry so seriously. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 1:24, he says, we have not come to have lordship over your faith, dominion over your faith, but we are helpers of your joy. The true ministry of the apostolic is a joy enablement ministry. These are joy enhancers. There is a radical power in humor and in comedy. Who was recently attacked in France? Comedians. Who posed a threat to the North Korean dictatorship? Comedians. You see, secular comedians have realized this power for a long, long time. They've played this power card for decades to shape our politics, veer our elections, mold the minds and the worldviews of society. I'm telling you what, Saturday Night Live is going to have way more influence on the election than any town hall meeting with Wolf Blitzer. Come on, where are the Christian comedians at? So often, the church neuters and domesticates humor so that it loses its edge, strips it of its mojo and its teeth. But humor has a way of desacralizing religious constructs, and that is why it's so intimidating to the religious order. Because once you see through something, once somebody points out the elephant in the room, or the fact that the emperor has no clothes, well, suddenly the illusionists are left powerless. They're left impotent. And the hierarchy stays in business by lording their spirituality over you. The true apostolic is not lording itself over your faith. Apostles and prophets are not ceilings beyond which we can never rise. The man of God to whom everyone must rally around his vision. No, apostles and prophets are foundations. They get under each one of us to release everyone into their own respective manifold, colorful callings, because there is a great big world out there and we all need to be moving in our own respective vision. It's about being fathers and mothers who get underneath and behind and release sons and daughters into their own destiny. And that requires humility and joy, not being these insecure CEOs who are intimidated by anyone who rises to their perceived level of spirituality. C.S. Lewis said joy is the serious business of heaven, but we don't take joy seriously. We want some assembly line production factory. We want purpose-driven whatever. We think of joy as just this little pick-me-up, to encourage the troops so that they'll volunteer for the nursery on Wednesday night or they'll go evangelize harder. We let people have a little bit of joy, but we don't see the importance of it. Jesus, dude, he had a remarkable sense of humor. If you don't believe that, check in the mirror someday after all. You know what I mean? But he, in his earthly ministry, the guy was hilarious. Of course, it's taken you 2,000 years to get the joke. We don't usually think of Jesus as possessing humor. But if the core nature of humor is irony, well, he was full of it. Most theologians miss his humor. Out of all my theology books, I've got only one tiny little book on the humor of Christ. But imagine just for a second that you're this little kid who's hearing the words of Jesus for the very first time. See, most of us are over familiar with his words. You know, you've read it in the King James so many times, it's like rubbing the face off a nickel. You can't even see what it's saying on surface value anymore, okay? So just imagine you're this little kid, you're hearing him for the first time. This is all new. And here you scramble through the crowd. And then here's this guy, Jesus, that everybody's been talking about. They're all crowded around to see him. And then you see the religious elite standing there, the most important, respected guys in the whole community, the Pharisees. And then Jesus turns to them and he says, the whores are going to make it into the kingdom before any of you guys do. And you're like, dude, did he just say that? That is hilarious. Or imagine, he says, you guys swallow a camel. And you're just sitting there, you're thinking, swallow a camel? You're just a little kid picturing a dude putting a camel in his mouth. That's pretty funny. And then he's like, you guys, you try to remove a speck from your brother's eye, but you've got this big log in your own eye. And you're picturing a dude with a big log in his eye. You're like, that's pretty funny. Look, same thing with the Apostle Paul. Here he is preaching the finished work of the cross, and then the Judaizers come along, and here they are. They're adding steps, to perfect your spirituality, because Jesus wasn't enough. And the next step, brothers, you got to get circumcised. Now these guys, dude, they didn't really care about your spirituality. They literally just wanted your foreskin on their belt. I mean, these guys carried a trophy rack of foreskins around with them. They worked for tips. And it's like preachers today, always bragging on the size of their congregations. It was just this game. And so what does Paul say about these Judaizers? The circumcision lot, he calls them. He says, I wish they'd just go all the way and chop the whole thing off. Dude, so much is cleaned up in our modern translations. When Paul's talking about his own self-righteousness, you know what the word in there? He says his self-righteousness is dog shit. Isaiah says self-righteousness was like menstrual rags. I mean, these guys knew this was punchy language. Now, as much as I appreciate good old Pope Francis over in the Vatican in so many ways, I like the guy, but I must say, I disagree with him in his recent statement that we cannot make fun of other people's faith. Now, sure, I believe in tolerance, but I also remember Elijah on Mount Carmel asking the Baal worshipers, he's like, where is Baal? Is he out taking a dump? Why hasn't he showed up yet? Where is he, boys? Or think about Martin Luther. Dude, every Protestant calls Martin Luther this superhero. I mean, what if they actually read his books and listened to the language that he uses? I mean, it's like the prophet who's venerated after he dies, but dude, his books are laced with these horrendous, obscene insults. He's always just talking about beer and fart jokes and calling the Pope names. I mean, not necessarily classy, but who am I to say? He got the job done, didn't he? I mean, he would have these drawings on the cover of his books with the Pope being birthed out of Satan's rectum. He knew people were getting a laugh out of this. Now, Francis, please understand. I may disagree with you, but I wouldn't take it that far. I don't believe you came from Satan's rectum. Look at this, okay? Check out, I've got this amazing website somebody just showed me the other day that automatically generates an insult from Martin Luther. You just press insult me now, and it gives you a spontaneous little insult, something Luther wrote. Okay, here's one. This is the words of Martin Luther. Hear now, you ass, with your long donkey ears and a cursed liar's mouth. Here's another one. You are the prostitute of heretics. Think what you will. Pull it up. Think what you will. So make in your pants, hang it around your neck, then make a jelly of it and eat it like the vulgar sows and asses that you are. You are like mouse dropping in the pepper. Look, I honestly don't know what it is. Humor just seems like a foreign language in every Christian circle I've ever been a part of. People are still hung up over jokes we made in 2007. I remember once we did this deliverance course years ago, where this guy sits down with you and makes you read off of this list of make-believe demons and renounce them all. And I mean, if you're in deliverance, that's what you do. You just make up some random word and attach spirit of onto the front of it. He has a spirit of intelligence. Cast it out. And And the rule of thumb is just cast out anything you don't understand. And so I'm sitting with this guy, and apparently this guy's superpower is that he would look you in the eyeballs, and if you twitched or did anything unusual while you're renouncing these make-believe demons, he would make you do it all over again. And so I'm going down this list, renouncing stuff that I never even did to begin with, but you're supposed to renounce it all just in case, which is really smart. And then finally, I get down to this one that I knew I was going to have trouble with. It was a mocking spirit. Now, obviously, you're not allowed to laugh when you're renouncing a mocking spirit. And so just the fact that I'm not allowed to laugh starts setting me off. And so I go, I renounce the mocking spirit. And the guy's like, do it over again. Dude, I don't know how many times I tried to get that one out, but the problem is I have a mocking spirit. Thank God. Just like Jesus, just like Paul. Then I remember, like, the next one on the list was something like bestiality, which just continued to send me over the edge laughing. I'm like, pretty sure I'd never done that one before, but just in case, we'll renounce it. And I think I had a crush on Miss Piggy when I was in kindergarten. Look, dude, at some point, we gotta relax a little bit. Read Hebrews 3 and 4. I mean, the flavor of faith is rest. Let's start to trust God a little bit. Cheer up and chill out with this whole thing called life. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. Luther said the gospel is nothing less than laughter and joy. Robert Capon, he said the gospel is a joke. The gospel is God's laughter over the problem of the ages, which he solved before it ever began. We so want to condition this good news, to moderate it, to dampen it, to put disclaimers on it. Dude, listen, Christianity does not include a party. Christianity is a party. Joy is serious business. It was for the joy set before him that he endured the cross. Jesus had the party in mind. Joy is not this unimportant little virtue that just inspires us to achieve some other more noble cause. It's not just this pick-me-up, okay? Jesus was preaching. I mean, here he is. He's on his earthly ministry, preaching, working his little fingers to the bone. I mean, bless his little heart, having a rough go of it. And then right at the end of it all, he says to his disciples, he said, I have told you all of these things so that your joy may be complete. You see, joy is not a means to some other end. Joy is an end in and of itself. Joy is the whole point. What if God was really in this whole thing just for the fun of it? Different God than I grew up with. That, boys and girls, would change your perspective on everything. And let me also say, that humor which is baptized goes beyond mere cynicism. See, cynicism only tears down, but there's a joy from above that exalts true virtue. It's a deconstruction of what is false, only with the ultimate objective of building up what is true. Cynicism may refuse to believe what is false, but cynicism alone does not possess the virtue of seeing what is good. Okay, C.S. Lewis said this about cynicism. He said you can't go on seeing through things forever. The whole point of seeing through something is to see something through it. To see through all things is the same as not to see. It's not about this endless tearing down, but seeing something virtuous through the fog of lies that we rightly, relentlessly mock. In C.S. Lewis's The Last Battle in the Narnia series, you've got these dwarves, and these guys are so cynical because they had been fooled by this fake pretender to Aslan's throne, the fake lion. You know, Aslan the lion allegorizes Christ. And because they had been fooled by a fake Aslan, they refused to be fooled again. But in doing so, they end up refusing to recognize the true Aslan when he arrives. They can't see the glory because of their cynicism. They're sitting here in the new Narnia, which is absolute paradise, but in their minds, they see it as a filthy barn. But right up until the end, they keep consoling themselves with this ridiculous idea that at least they are not fooled. And that is what cynicism does. Okay, this is why Paul, I think, cautions us against what he calls harsh joking, like when you take things too far, where you're just tearing people to bits and ripping everything apart. Instead, he says, look, be thankful. Sometimes like where our strength is, also our weakness is. And sometimes you see people, they can get kind of depressed because they just see through everything. But there's this antidote of thankfulness, of gratitude. There's this humor whose object of adoration is Christ, whose end is not the despair and hopelessness of ridicule meriting falsehood, but its end is the delight and enjoyment of relishing Mr. Happy himself. Okay? Love you guys. We're going to be back next week, but check out these announcements. We'll see you guys soon. God bless. For the first time in 6 years, we're opening one of our Middle East missions to applicants who'd like to go where most Christians fear to tread. This June 2015, we'll travel to Amman, Jordan, to host a gathering from many surrounding Arab nations, sharing the gospel, releasing a tangible atmosphere of glory, signs, wonders, miracles with visitors from Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. We'll also provide hands-on outreach to the poorest of the poor from war-torn Syria as we visit refugee camps where more than 2 million people have been displaced by the ongoing civil war in that nation. There, we'll feed the poor, pray for the sick, host daily relief outreaches. This is a specialized trip that's not for the faint of heart. Christian ministries often persecuted in the Arab world, but there is so much glory for those who dare to dive deep into the danger zone. So please only apply if you have an appetite for risk and thrive on the unknown. Because of the nature of this trip, space really will be limited, and it's a first-come basis for those who apply early. The situation in the Syrian refugee camps is dire, and we want to share the love of Jesus not just in word but deed. Even if you don't want to join the trip, but you want to participate with a donation, a gift to the relief efforts, you can make a contribution online. Find out more, and remember the sign-up deadline is March 1st. Visit thenewmystics.com/danger. We're going to be in Liverpool, UK, February 6th through 8th, Reykjavik, Iceland, February 9th through 11th. We're going to be in Basel, Switzerland, February 20th through 22nd. I'm going to be in Northern California in Chico, March 13 through 15. March 20 to 22nd, I'll be in Las Vegas. Then I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado, April 24th through 26th. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, May 15th through 17th, and then Chicago, May 29th through 31st. Come and join us. Find all our schools at thenewmystics.com/schools.